All right, good morning, party people. It is June 12th. It is, what's the day? Wednesday? All right, happy Wednesday. Okay, so for our daily reading today, we were back in the New Testament. So we read Mark 1 2, Acts 19:20, John, our words in red. We finished John, so we'll start John over again tomorrow, chapter 21, Revelation, of course, 9:10, Psalms 5 6, and then Proverbs 24. Okay, so that's our soak in Jesus this morning. So we are back in the book of Revelation. We finished chapter 7 yesterday. I did go over some ideas of the rapture and all the different theories. Just briefly touching on that. Just wanted to, because as I mentioned yesterday, there's no mention of the rapture in the book of Revelation, which tends to support the idea of the pre-trib rapture, right? However, there are other things that have happened in the past and have happened to the early church, are happening now, that lead a lot of people, and there's scriptures that can be interpreted in a way that lead. That's why there's a whole group of people that believe in a pre-trib rapture. Like I said, there's not a pre-trib. I'm so tired. A mid-trib rapture, which is where I'm currently at. And then there's also people that believe in a post-tribulation rapture. And then there's people that don't believe in any kind of rapture at all. They say that they have a huge, argument based on the fact saying that this is a new teaching, that this didn't used to exist. And there's a whole theory on that. And there's people with, all kinds of letters after their name in each of those categories. So it's always interesting to study all the different theories and ideas, and like I always say, be open to to God moving on your heart, and to not be unteachable. Just recognize that He's bigger than us and it's His gig, right? We're kind of along for the ride and try to do the best we can in His kingdom. So anyways, so we're in the book of Revelation. We're about to start chapter 8, right? So those of you, for a quick recap, chapter 1, the introduction to the book of Revelation, Jesus appears to his apostle John, who knew Jesus personally, walked with him, and chapters 2 and 3 are all in red. So this is Jesus's words speaking to John, giving him a revelation for 7 churches. I had mentioned yesterday about the idea of the numbers. Numbers play a huge role in the Bible. There's a perfectness and I don't know how to describe it. There's a pattern with numbers with God. God's got a thing about numbers. There's even a book called Numbers, right? There's a book in the Bible called Numbers. So there are people who teach on numbers, right? Even just in the book of Revelation, we see that Jesus gave a prophecy and told John to write down letters to 7 churches, right? We saw 7 seals. We're about to study the 7 trumpets. So there's a lot of things with numbers. There's the 12 apostles, there's the 12 tribes, you can just go on and on. There's people that do nothing but those kind of teachings. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely look that up. All this stuff does is just cement the authority of the Bible, right? Because there's no such thing as anything random in the Bible. It's just crazy perfect. Okay, so after the letters to the 7 churches, all in red, the tension switches, and we are seeing John taken up into the throne room of heaven. And there, that's where you see it, chapters 4 and 5, him trying to describe all the wonderful, crazy things he's seen in heaven as a person who lived back then, right? He's trying to describe the angelic beings that are around the throne, and the colors and the rainbows, and all the different things he's experiencing in his language. And so then we see chapter 5, Jesus appears again, except he's now in the form of a lamb, which of course we're all familiar with. And then you see chapter 6, Jesus takes the scroll in chapter 5 out of the right hand of the Father, and he's the only one that can look at it, open it, and touch it. The scroll refers back to the book of Daniel, so go back and read that. And then we see in chapter 6 the 7 seals being explained, right? So we see the seals beginning to be opened. So this would be like the tribulation precursor, right? So this is the beginning, or the beginning of sorrows, right? So you're beginning to see things happen on the earth with each of these 6 seals. And then there's a break in between the 6th seal and the 7th seal, which we're about to look at today in chapter 8. In chapter 7, you're seeing 144,000 of the Jewish nation come to know God. They're sealed specifically for God. They're called out by name, by tribe, and the further judgments are held off until these people are marked. And then you see, then you kind of, it looks like you're sent forward in time a little bit, because now you're in that same chapter, you're witnessing all of these multitudes of people, millions and millions of people beyond number, are in front of the throne of God, worshiping God. And these are those that are called out of the Great Tribulation. So these are the people that die during the tribulation. Now we're about to see the seventh seal broken, okay? So we've already been through 6 seals. There was a pause in chapter 7. Now we're in chapter 8. Okay. So it says, when he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. So the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Okay, so now the 7th seal has been opened, and now the trumpets are about to be sounded. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. So when he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. Okay, so there's a whole, the people that are the pre-trib, this is a section that they use as, not pre-trib, mid-trib. They, in my old school commentary, they were saying this is where people believe that Christ returns for his bride. And so this is, and this is just one place where the mid-trib people think that even though it doesn't say it explicitly, it's saying it by not saying anything, the silence in heaven. So when he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I saw the angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. So there is a whole group of people that believe that this is signifying the return of Christ to catch away the church at this time. After the first 6 seals, but before the sounding of the 7th seal, before the removing of the 7th seal completely. So that's just what it said. I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just sharing with you what the commentary said. Okay, so these are people with lots of little letters after their name that have spent tons of time studying this stuff. And then it says, I saw the 7 angels stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Okay, so now the 7 trumpets have been given. And they also said that these 7 angels they're believed to be archangels. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. Okay, so we talked about the prayers of the saints before, because that old school commentary made a point of saying that these prayers in the end times in particular are going to have, that there's significance and power and something special about these prayers. I don't know what, but this is what they had said. And so you're seeing this mentioned again here, that and again, the fact that it's mentioned, remember, there's nothing insignificant or random about the Bible. So one thing that it says, I was going to read this because I thought it was pretty interesting. It says, the incense is being consecrated and ratified, and these prayers are uniting all of God's spiritual creation in the same supplication. So that's the idea that they had here for this section, where it talks about the angel taking the censers. And remember, we saw this in the book of Ezekiel, right? And you see this also in Numbers. What was it? Numbers 16:37, when they had sinned and they were taking incense from the altar and they were offering it as like supplication to God to repenting on behalf of the people's sin. And this is during the time of Moses. And then in Ezekiel 10:2, this is when you see the angel take it from underneath the altar right before the destruction of Jerusalem. Remember, Ezekiel prophesied when he was in captivity, but he also saw the very end of the kingdom of Israel. And of course, I'm out of time. Okay, so hold tight for number 2, because I'm going to do a little bit more. Okay, so Jesus is coming. Read your Bible. Peace.